Lunatic Hisoka here. I got Jimmy. Jimmy, what's going on, man?
No, nothing much. Just enjoying the community farming events going on. It's pretty hyped.
Yeah, we got something really special coming up here in a couple hours. The Apollo Dao community farming event. And people are starting to add their UST, add their LP pairs into the event. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to just talk about not really specifically the farming event, but more just about Apollo Dao in general. What's it all about? Tokenomics. And Jimmy's very keen on Apollo, so I thought I'd invite him on, and we could have a chat about it. Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I've just been more and more bullish on their DAO based on what I've been reading and trying to make sense of the landscape of everything we got going on in the Terra community right now. Of course, they're entering with the auto compounder, which most people are trying to compare and contrast the similarities and differences between Spectrum protocol, right? So really diving into all the articles they release on their tokenomics, on the community farming event, and haven't got a chance quite to look at the long list of investors that they just announced from their pre-sale. But yeah, it's been a lot to dive into, and I've definitely got some thoughts around how they structured everything.
I think Spectrum wasn't the total value locked for Spectrum over 100 million at some point?
Yeah, it was. And yeah, that was a nice little run up to let me pull up Coin Hall real quick. But yeah, they had a nice little run up to maybe I think it was almost $8, was it? Yeah, they peaked out above $8.
Spectrum
right around
was
the time.
insane.
Yeah, and then if for the folks who kind of knew how the community farming event was going to work, we definitely rotated our farms from Spectrum to some of the other LP that we knew were going to be available for sure for the community farming event from Apollo.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, Spec was at $2. And then it peaked all the way at $8 about 2 weeks later. And since it's gone back down to $5, I think you and I in our Telegram group, we were talking about it. When were we talking about buying in? I think it was around $3, and then we wrote it up to $6, and we sat through this volatility here, and it's just been a whipsaw these past. September has been interesting just in general for cryptos. And then Apollo started talking about the community farming event, and we see a lot of the money migrating over to Apollo now. Have you aped into the vaults?
I've pretty much moved all of my LPs from Spectrum, minus Ink, of course, into the Apollo vaults. And I was able to play around with the platform a little bit when they released their alpha to the OGs. I just put $5 or $10 in some of the vaults, and no, it's been working flawlessly.
Cool. So we got, I don't know, I think people who are interested in investing in Apollo, there's people who want to use it for its auto compounding and farming benefits, and there's people who want to invest in it as token holders, as stakers. And I know you've been through the white paper pretty deeply. You've got some things you want to cover. Where do you think we should start off with?
Let's see. I think we should probably start. So most folks, I think the kind of environment now is that there's a lot of money that's been made, right, in the Luna ecosystem, with Luna running up to over 40. And we've seen everyone's appetite with the pylon swaps, with TWD, with Terra. Everyone just wants to get in on these pre-sales and get their tokens early as possible, right? But I want to dive into, okay, after you have these tokens, why should you hold on to them? What should you do with them? And should you dump them when you get your 50% unlock after the community farming event, after they launch on say TerraSwap, Astroport, and one of the other loop markets.
So we're supposed to be, if we're doing the farming event, we can put in the money now. There's no end date on when the farming event ends, but the idea is when 3 million Apollo tokens are mined, the farming event ends. And the speed in which those tokens will like dissipate just depends on how much total value locked is in the system. Some people estimate it's only going to last like three to 6 days. There's some rumors that Apollo might add more tokens to extend it. But the idea is once the farming is done, you don't get your tokens immediately. It's going to be a few weeks until they launch the actual platform. But when they do launch it, whatever you farmed during this event, 50% of it will be available at the time of launch. And then the rest will, what is it? It's going to come over the next year. Is that right?
Yeah, let me take a look at it right now. I just sent you a link to the Tokenomics article. And if you pull that up, we can look at the tokenomics here. So it says, I think if you scroll down to the pie chart, yeah. So it says the total is going to be 100 million Apollo tokens that are going to be totally available, right? And then for, let's see, it says Luna stakers are going to get, I think it says 5%. Let me see if I can pull it.
5%, yeah.
Yeah, so they've got 5%. The Apollo OGs in the Discord are going to get 1%. And then it says down here, let's see. Yeah, so you've got 3 million tokens that are going to be coming from the community farming event, right? And then it says right underneath there, if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's on the second paragraph right after the pie chart. It says that 50% will be released at the token generation event, and then 50% distributed monthly over a year, which is interesting because we've seen airdrops happen, weekly with all the other platforms like Mirror, Anchor, Pylon, but they're doing it every month.
Yeah, they released like to be an Apollo OG, you have to be in their Discord group. I think they released some information about becoming an OG like a month or two ago, and I mean, really, it's one of the benefits of just being active in the Telegrams, on Twitter, Discord. You can see some of these early opportunities. And while there's no benefit for OGs during this farming event, I believe their OGs are going to get a unique airdrop coming to them. And there's only 500 OGs or something. So that'll be a pretty decent amount.
Yeah, it's a maximum of 500 OGs, and in the paragraph following that pie chart, it says that you've got 25% of that 1% is going to be distributed at the TGE, another 25% distributed over 3 years, which is quite a long time, and then the remaining 50% are going to be distributed through NFT boosters, which they haven't really talked much about, and that's TBD. But if you do the math, 500 OGs getting 1% for 1 million tokens, and if each token, I think you're getting a total of 2,000 Apollo tokens over the course of 3 years, even at like a modest 5x from the 0.25 price, that's like at least, what's the math? I can't remember the math. It's like at least, is it like $500?
Oh, I don't do math.
No. It's like $500, and then if it does a 5x, it'll turn into about $2,500, right? So just for being active in their Discord, they're giving you a free, $2,500 at least over 3 years, which is insane,
bro. Yeah, it pays to be an OG. Well, I mean, what are you going to do with these tokens when you get them? Are you going to dump them?
I'm absolutely not going to be done. If anything, I'll probably be aping into it a little bit if they launch on Terra Swap, and maybe get wrecked, maybe don't get wrecked. I don't know. We'll see.
Why are you so bullish on Apollo?
Yeah, so I think there's some interesting things on this tokenomics article, right? So I think if you scroll down to this section about, of course, everyone's going to have governance tokens that allows you to essentially vote on where the platform goes. But I think Apollo Dao is going to be the first really open DAO on Terra, right? So if you compare them to Spectrum is just essentially a platform that does yield aggregation for you, right? Does some auto compounding. They're coming out with some new vaults in their V2. But Apollo Dao is using their auto compounder just as one tool or one protocol in their suite or platform of tools that they're going to be making available for the entire ecosystem. And then I think a couple of things that I saw them making in the Space Camp, hackathon, are just a couple of tools that they needed to build themselves to run their DAO efficiently in the name of creating multi-sig wallets, and as well as doing the automation of certain transactions that they're doing all the time, right? Like paying their developers, paying their team. I imagine every time they need to do that, they have to get all the multi-sig holders to come together and essentially coordinate, all right, all of these transactions have to go through at the same time. It probably took them, a while to essentially get through all of these kind of routine transactions that they need to accomplish every single, week, couple weeks, every month as a DAO. So they're building these essentially no code flows that you can run all of these transactions in, or all of these swaps and all of these transactions in just one single block, right? Not having to, get all the multi-sigs involved so many times.
Are they working on this because of their war chest feature? Is that the main problem they're trying to solve with these?
I think the main issue is just the coordination of multi-sigs, right? Controlling the treasury and making sure everyone's, securely being paid out, or setting budgets for certain things. But now, because they're a DAO and they open up these tools for other platforms to use, and I think every mature platform on Terra, the Terra ecosystem, will have to have some form of these tools. And if they're building it and they open it up to the community and open it up to other protocols, they're essentially going to possibly be able to get a fee or some kind of revenue generation by allowing these other protocols to use it, which continue to build their war chests, as well as their first product, the auto compounder, just funneling money into this war chest.
Yeah, the war chest is definitely something I think we should cover next. So the idea is I'm a user. I want to compound my LP positions. So let's say I'm providing LP for Anchor, LP for Mirror, LP for mine. I can put those LPs into Apollo, and it does the auto compounding thing. Do we know how often it compounds yet?
It's multiple times per day.
Okay, so it's doing that.
I've kind of eyed it on the finders on the blockchain. It's doing it multiple times every day, and it can do that because of its high TVL compared to the gas price, right? So the rate at which it can efficiently or optimize the compounding is way more than what we could do based on our individual wallets.
And do we know how much Apollo tokens we'd be earning yet, like compared to Spectrum, or is that to be announced?
Yeah, that's to be announced. We don't exactly know, what the rewards are going to look like for providing liquidity. I think the most we see is that they're incentivizing LPs with like 50% of their entire, tokenomics emissions, so which is quite a bit.
Okay, so I'll be doing that. I'll be accruing Apollo tokens, and I have the option of selling those tokens, or I have the option of keeping them and potentially staking them or providing LP for them. What's the main value proposition for staking Apollo?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be similar to any other, protocols, right? But I think we've seen with Astroport that the idea of staking and locking your tokens and earning boosted rewards is something that's coming to the Terra ecosystem now, right? So in the Astroport white paper, they saw it more as points, or if you're keen on Star Terra's ecosystem, they're calling it, their energy points, where not only by staking your Apollo tokens or staking or providing LP to the Apollo token, you're going to earn, some amount of Apollo. And then if you lock that Apollo tokens in for Z Apollo, they're essentially giving you boosted rewards. So whatever Apollo rewards you might have been getting for doing single staking or providing LP, if you hold Z Apollo, it's going to boost that to a certain amount, right? And I imagine that boost is coming from their performance fees. It's actually not entirely clear where these boosts may be coming from. And it says here, the longer that you decide to lock up your Z Apollo tokens for, the more boost essentially will be able to get.
How does one get Z Apollo tokens? Is that by staking?
Yeah, it's like staking and locking. It says, I think the second paragraph underneath number 2, called Apollo LP Vault and Z Apollo, it says you're going to be able to stake and lock your Apollo tokens for Z Apollo tokens.
Okay. And we're not sure what you can do with Z Apollo tokens yet.
I think the Z Apollo tokens are essentially just a gauge for how much boost that you should receive relative to everyone else that's also staking and locking Z Apollo. And then it might give you some other, it also gives you a boosted, not only rewards, but boosted voting power, right? And one of the things that they're also bringing is, these boosted gauges as well, right? So say there is a general, even split amongst every single pool of how many Apollo tokens are going to be distributed. But say you, Hisoka, want, you're really bullish on, I don't know, Galaxy for whatever reason, and you're all in on Galaxy. And you decide to stake your Apollo tokens, turn it into Z Apollo, and you use all of your voting powers to boost only that one Galaxy vault. So if you have a lot of Apollo, you can essentially redirect a lot of the Apollo tokens to your own benefit.
Interesting.
And
okay.
one of the things that I can relate this to is, say you have Curve on Ethereum, right? So they provide a lot of stable swap pools, and they're probably one of the largest, yield aggregators or stable swap pools on Ethereum. And earlier this year, we saw Convex Finance come out and say, hey, you know what? We're gonna go in and lock up all of these Curve tokens to get the maximum rewards, and we're going to essentially boost everyone's rewards, and you reap the benefits of being a whale. And I see there's a lot of potential for this war chest and this mechanism that not only is Apollo using, but Astroport is using as well. So I think there's an opportunity here for Apollo to start buying up all of these other governance tokens from other protocols like Astroport, and then locking up these Astroport tokens and essentially boosting the amount of rewards that that will benefit Apollo and the war chest individually. So, I mean, if you look at DeFi Llama, Convex is the number one, I think number one in one of the categories. And all they've done is essentially build on top of another platform, right? So Apollo could be that Convex Finance for the Astroport automated market maker protocol.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to recap that, I get Apollo tokens. I can stake them. If I agree to lock them up for a longer period of time, then I could get Z Apollo tokens. And depending on how long my lockup is, I might be eligible for certain boosters. And then I might be able to allocate those boosters to specific focus things.
Yep, specific, focus tools that, benefit yourself individually, whatever your favorite, LP vault might be at the time.
See, it's good. It's good. It's good that you read the white papers and can explain this stuff to me. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Did we generally cover what you can do with Apollo tokens? Reasons for staking?
Yeah, I think that'll be probably the first. I think the natural progression of what folks will do after the community farming event, once they get their tokens, either they're going to sell them, or these incentives and the utility of the Apollo token and Z Apollo will keep them on board to hold and boost their own positions that they're invested in, right? So let's see what else. So we talked about the multi-sig, we talked about their flows, we talked about this suite of platforms that they're bringing in to essentially bootstrap and bringing cash revenue to their war chest, right? I think the next interesting thing that we might want to cover is, okay, we've got all this money coming into this war chest. What are we going to do with it? And what does that mean for the Apollo token holders?
Yeah, sounds good.
So on that same article, they go down and they talk about how right now the war chest is initially compromised 50% Luna, 20% BETH, and 30% AUST. And I think these are asset allocations that they've programmed into their factory router or one of their contracts, where anytime money comes into the war chest, it's automatically market buying 50% Luna, 20% BETH, and 30% is being deposited into Anchor for AUST, right? And as Apollo token holders, we essentially have the opportunity to redirect some of these, some of the yield to another platform, right? So we can say, once Astroport comes out, say, a governance vote comes out that says, hey, we want to hold these Astro tokens. So let's redirect some of that Luna over to Astro so we can continue to build this war chest. So I guess this is almost similar to White Whale, where they're trying to arbitrage and bring in cash revenue from arbitrage. The Apollo war chest is a little bit more flexible in what we want to do as Apollo token holders. Where do we see the opportunities? Where do we want all this revenue to go to after they've come to the war chest?
So where does the war chest get its money from?
I think initially it's going to be bootstrapped by the community farming event, right? So of the $750,000 that's being raised, I think they said 500,000 of that is going to, let's see. So some of that is going to be used, of the 750,000, some of it is going to be used to providing liquidity when the token launches, and then the remaining is going to be used to bootstrap the war chest, I believe, right? So you've got some initial bootstrap of the war chest from our community farming event. I think you've got some other amount of tokens emitted will go into the war chest. And then any new revenue generated from the auto compounder, from their flows platform, from the multi-sig platform is going to be flowing into this war chest, right? And then any revenue generated from, say, holding BETH, holding AUST, or staking Luna, that's just going to be compounding this war chest.
So they're going to bootstrap the war chest at first using community farming. The way they're doing this is if you put in $10,000 worth of mine LP, generally you'd expect to get the rewards in mine and UST, or in mine that comes with that LP. But the way Apollo has it structured is those I guess LP rewards are going to be kept by Apollo, put into the war chest, converted into one of these three: Luna, BETH, AUST. And instead of you getting those rewards, you're going to get 25-cent Apollo tokens instead. And
yeah, that's right.
Eventually that's going to stop. So when that does stop, their revenue or their income stream is going to come from, I guess, making money off of whatever they bootstrapped. And then there's going to be additional future sources for war
Yeah.
chest income.
Yes. So I think their performance fee, and I think that's one benefit from Spectrum is that their performance fee is relatively low compared to all other yield aggregators, across the space. They're only taking 5% of the rewards, and I think it's like a 0.1% deposit fee for their LPs, for their pools. And then I think there's somewhere on this article that says that the performance fee from Apollo is going to be anywhere between 10 to 20% of your rewards, right? And a lot of these yield aggregators can justify that because they're essentially offering you this auto compounding service that will generate more than that 10 to 20% performance fee, and of course the convenience too of being able to auto compound your rewards, right? But I think the interesting thing that the Apollo War Chest does for the Apollo token holders is that it essentially sets a floor for the price of the Apollo token, right? So we have these new tokens coming out, like Altered Protocol, like the Meow token, or Dan token, or some of these other just tokens that kind of spring out of nowhere, and no one really knows what the floor price of those. Are they going to go to zero? We don't really, it's hard to tell what the bottom is going to be for those tokens. But what the Apollo War Chest does is it sets a floor for how much the Apollo token should be worth, right? So on that article, it mentions there's going to be a soft floor. Soft floor is when the value of all of the Apollo tokens right now is essentially equal to the amount of, say, Luna, BETH, and AUST that they have in the war chest, right? So if the Apollo token is collectively worth less than the war chest, then it makes sense for essentially the protocol to buy up all of the Apollo tokens, right? So there's a floor for the Apollo tokens, and then there's even they even mentioned something called a hard floor, where if the token falls below the price of the Apollo tokens when they're fully diluted, then the Apollo token or the Apollo protocol essentially the war chest will just buy up all of the tokens to bring it back above the hard floor price.
Interesting.
And I think it says on there somewhere that if it for some if you go down to the section called Tactical Apollo Token Buybacks, it talks about the soft floor and how if the market cap of Apollo starts to fall below the value of the war chest, they're just going to start using the war chest funds to start buying back 1% of the war chest every week, using 1% of the war chest value to start buying back the tokens every week.
Okay. Yeah, that's very unique compared to, it almost feels like that's a little bit of Luna, where Luna's always got some base value just because it can give you transaction fees. So there's always some reason to hold it. This is like a different way to go about it, but it's an interesting approach as well. Is this
mm-hmm. It's almost like there's some I guess hints of almost like the community choosing their own index fund, right? Like from Nebula. And wherever we see the values, and instead of creating, buying a new index token or you essentially just hold Apollo tokens, and we can all vote together on how to grow and build this war chest with all the opportunities. And as the war chest compounds and grows in value, so does the Apollo token, right? And essentially, we should see non-linear appreciation of the Apollo token just because of this, because Luna will grow exponentially, right? AUST grows exponentially. However we decide to use some of these governance tokens, they should all be voted on and distributed in a manner that grows the war chest exponentially. So we're playing with whale funds and we're essentially all voting together with the Apollo token.
Do stakers of Apollo, are they anticipating like consistent income from the war chest, like similar to how Ank stakers get block by block staking rewards? Are we anticipating something similar here?
I think for single staking, I'm not exactly quite sure. The part that was a little bit confusing for me is down the section called war chest versus profit sharing. Essentially, the idea is that they want for the first 3 years to grow the war chest as much as possible, and then as the years go on, more of the revenue that's being generated from the war chest will start to distribute back to the Z Apollo stakers. Right, so it says like for the first year, most of the funds are going, 100% of funds going to the war chest. Year 2, 90% to the war chest, 10% to Z Apollo stakers. And then there's a dramatic change for year 4, where 60% is going to incentivize the auto compounding vaults, I believe. 30% is going to the Z Apollo stakers, and then only 10% is 10% of new revenue is going to the war chest.
Do we know if there's any inflation like base staking rewards coming for Apollo?
Inflationary base staking rewards? I'm not exactly quite sure.
All right.
Yeah, because after you have 100 million tokens distributed over 3 years, then that's it, right? So all of that yield farming, like how are you going to incentivize, any more yield farming, any more LPs, right? Once all of the tokens have been distributed. And I think that year 4 is going to be very interesting on, what the community decides on where these new revenues are going to go.
Okay, sounds good. So we're starting to. I mean, the farming is about to launch. Like what, in the next hour?
I think it might have already started. Hold on.
Did it?
I think it said 20 minutes. Oh yeah, it started already.
Oh, okay. I have my dummy Apollo farm thing up, so I can't. Is it already showing you things are being accrued?
It's showing me a 0 on the timer, and I'm not connected to the test net, so.
Damn, it's got 95 million total value locked already.
That's crazy.
It's been like less than.
Anchor's not even launched, so I wonder what they're going to do in terms of extending this. And I wonder what's going to happen to this TVL if people decide to move over their Ank UST.
It's huge, man. What's your price prediction for Anchor for Apollo?
I think an easy 10x with
right.
What's going on. If they do their token generation event before Columbus 5, I think it's gonna just we might see another Star Terra swap event here. But the fact that they are doing this community farming event, they're able to essentially provide, I think, 2.5 more liquidity into the Terra swap pool than we saw with Star Terra. So I think it won't be as bad, but I think we'll certainly see a huge run up on the price. And with their war chest, with staking turning into Z Apollo, and all the things that they've got going for themselves, and the potential of owning tons of governance tokens across all of Terra projects, I think we're going to see an easy 10x on Apollo's price and the capabilities of what the DAO is able to do.
Yeah, I'm bullish, man. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna ape the Terra swap thing. I mean, I'm still I got nightmares from Star Terra, and I know a couple people who definitely paid $20 per token on Star Terra.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think I'll wait 10 minutes and then decide how things look and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really fascinating what these guys are doing, and I'm interested in seeing what happens next.
All right, man. Awesome, dude. Any other things you wanted to cover for Apollo?
No, I think that's it. I'm going to go grab something to eat and then watch what's going on with all these vaults and keep an eye out for Anchor.
All right, man. Good chat. This is the first time I'm having someone on the channel, obviously, if you guys listen. But I wanted Jimmy on because, unlike me, he actually reads white papers and he is somewhat technical, but he's also kind of a normie ape degen mix. So I think he's like the perfect person to talk to when it comes to like just breaking down some of these new protocols. So I'm going to have him on, hopefully, for Astroport and Mars and a few others. And we'll just do this whenever there's some interesting stuff coming up. Sound good?
Yep. No, sounds good.
All right, buddy.
Take care,
Thanks, man.
son.